I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees for the Village of Burr Ridge. It's September 24th, 2018. At this time, I'd like you to all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Fabeza.
Here.
Trustee Mattal.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Scialba.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Next is residents' comments. Before we start the resident comments, if any of you are here for Styrogenics, we just wanted to give you our update from the board so you know what's happening. Since all of us live here and lived here for a long time, we, like you, are very interested in what's happening and what's going on. And our village administrator has been keeping track of this. And at this time, I would like to ask him to give us an update on it.
Thank you, Trustee Pavazza. The village staff and the mayor have continued to be in regular contact with the villages of Willowbrook and Darien and other federal and state agencies on this issue. As we reported at the last board meeting, the village has hired a consultant to help us interpret the data to advise us moving forward. At the September 10th board meeting, of course, we had a lot of questions asked by the public, and as promised, we posted responses to those questions on our website, and that information is still on our website. The village of Willowbrook has formed their panel to evaluate the data and advise the village. We're watching that closely. I am watching that closely, and the manager in Willowbrook, Tim Halleck, has provided me with regular updates on their progress. Our consultant continues to review the findings that have been prepared and submitted. It's our understanding that additional what they call stack testing was completed at Styrogenics on Friday, and that the results of that testing should be available quickly. I believe Willowbrook is asking for that to be turned around this week, although I'm not 100% sure about the timing on that. But I do know that they're urging those results to be provided to the public as soon as possible. The tests were conducted as per Illinois EPA protocol and were monitored by the Illinois EPA, the US EPA, Fire District in Willowbrook, all of whom had representatives on site for the stack testing. Mayor Straub has sent a letter to the United States Environmental Protection Agency requesting additional air testing in all areas of Burr Ridge potentially impacted by these emissions from Styrogenic. Willowbrook and Darien have done the same. Mayor Straub and I will be meeting with the US EPA later this week, although the exact time has not been confirmed. We were invited to a meeting with local officials to provide an update from the US Environmental Protection Agency. Upon the conclusion of the testing and the publication of the test results, Willowbrook will be requesting that the ATSDR, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, provide an updated report based on the new information. Further action will then be determined by what's in that report. Once again, the Village of Burr Ridge will be supporting Willowbrook in their efforts in that regard. Concurrently, the Illinois Department of Public Health has begun a cancer incidence study in this area with the goal of assessing whether there are elevated cancers in the population surrounding the Styrogenics facility. And I believe that provides an update on all we know at this point in time. As I said, we continue to monitor the situation, and we'll report to the village board and on our website if any new information becomes available.
Any village residents would like to address the board at this time? Have you signed in? Could I have the sheet, please?
I had a question, Doug, on your update. That cancer incidence study report you mentioned it towards the end of your report there. Is there a timetable for its completion and publication?
Yes, good question. They indicated that it should be done within 6 months, and I was from August, so I assume February of 2019.
Thank you.
Any other comments for our village administrator? Okay, first one would be Jennifer.
Do I need a microphone?
You're on.
Could I ask where the mayor is this evening?
Pardon?
Where's the mayor this evening?
Where's who?
The mayor?
He's not here today.
I know, where is he? Why isn't he here?
He had a personal problem.
Okay.
Is there a problem with that?
I'm just curious. Just seems like we have a big crisis here. My name is Jennifer McConaughey, and I have been a Burr Ridge resident for the past 5.5 years. I attended the board meeting 2 weeks ago because I shared the concerns of many of my neighbors with regard to the recent information from Sterigenics. At the time, I was surprised the village administration had not provided much communication to the Burr Ridge residents or joined the surrounding communities in pushing for action or information. I am here tonight in shock and disgust at the village's obstinance and denial. While Mayor Mickey has been blogging about his dinners out and playtime with Elvis, or drinking lattes with his buddy who happens to own the building that Sterigenics rents, the citizens of Burr Ridge, and now at last count 5,200 local residents, are taking matters into their own hands. Instead of playing with my 4-year-old or my 20-month-old, I now make 5 to 10 phone calls a day to politicians and government officials. I send letters and emails to work to bring the halt of this cancer-causing chemical. I have attended protests, meetings, and know more about ETO than likely any of you. I am doing your job. I am one of the 5,200 citizens doing your job. To be clear, this will be your last term of office for all of you. You are all well known to be out of touch with reality and do not seem to have our community's best interest in mind. Your insolence borders on criminal neglect. I do not understand. Today, I had a lengthy phone call with Alec Messina, director of the Illinois EPA. He shares the same concerns as the Stop Sterigenics group. He never called into question the validity of any reports or questioned any of our concerns about our health and safety. I would encourage all of you to pick up the phone and talk to Alec yourself. He may give you some pointers on how to proceed forward. I do not understand how you fail to grasp the gravity of this situation. The upper middle class, vibrant community you once had is crumbling. You are kidding yourselves if you think your property is going to be worth anything in the future if this company stays in operation. No one will want to shop here, dine here, let alone live in a town with elevated cancer risks or a company like this. Word is getting out, and we're making sure it stays out. You may have noticed that there's less of the concerned Sterigenics group here this evening. We haven't weakened or backed down. In fact, we go stronger and bigger and more determined each hour. The reason people aren't here this evening is because they've deemed you useless. So carry on with your ramblings about rumors and inflated reports. Continue living in denial. Your legacy will most likely be profiled on 60 Minutes or some Michael Moore documentary, and I will be the first one watching.
Yvonne?
Good evening. I'm Yvonne Mayer, and I've lived in Burr Ridge since 2001, raised my 4 children who I hope to God don't come down with cancer anytime soon. I'm here today to follow up on my comments from last time. First, I would like to thank Trustee Francisi, Chapa, and Pavizzi, sir, for actually taking a position at the last meeting and calling for the immediate cessation of operations by Sterigenics until they can prove that they're not causing cancer to our community, all of our communities in the surrounding area. You're doing your job, in my opinion, and it's unfortunate that you're in the minority of a board and a mayor who have not shown their willingness to take the position to protect all of the residents of Burr Ridge. It's very unfortunate that Mayor Mickey Straub is not here tonight, because he apparently didn't take all of our comments at the last meeting seriously. In fact, in his last meeting roundup, or whatever it is he blogs about every Friday, he called everything that was being done an exaggeration, hysteria, just a jumping on the emotional bandwagon. These are just some of his statements about what is actually a very serious, life-threatening situation in our community. And I would expect that all of you would not condone his statements such as those, because they fly in the face of your statement tonight, trustee, about how all of you are taking it seriously. Well, clearly your mayor is not, and you should all have a word with him, because I will make sure that he is not reelected should he be stupid enough to try to run for office again. Now, at the last meeting, I believe it was Mayor Mickey, but it might have been somebody else on this board of trustee, who said you couldn't really involve yourself in the business of another municipality's issues, and that you really, this was kind of one of your explanations for not signing on to the letter asking for Sterigenics to stop its operations pending a full investigation. And I stepped up and I said, well, you know, that was kind of inconsistent with the precedent that was set by several or a couple of you and the administrator and Mayor Mickey and the village attorney, who all served on a citizens committee that went after another governing entity, the D86 Board of Education, and filed a complaint alleging all kinds of Office of Civil Rights violations, which, by the way, I'm sure you probably all know, that complaint has been dismissed, tossed out as groundless. But I would say, if some of you are willing to form a committee and have this building used for meetings and have the village administrator and the village attorney help out with the committee and show your concern, perhaps it's time to form that same kind of committee with regard to Sterigenics. Because if you can go after a school district that's not killing people, I would hope that you could go after a company that is. Thank you.
The other Jennifer?
Hello, I'm Jennifer Hauk. I've been in Burr Ridge for about 5 years now. I also want to start out thanking Mr. Paveza, Mr. Shapa, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your names. I'm not from around here. Francis.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're not the first.
I want to thank you for understanding the seriousness of this issue and taking our health and our children's health seriously and as your first priority. That was clear at the last meeting by the three of you. Mr. Model, Mr. Snyder, Ms. Mattal, and Mr. Straub, who's not here, this statement is for you. 2 weeks ago, I raised my concerns as a parent, friend, and neighbor, and I'm still all of those things. But today, I'd like to talk to you as a speech-language pathologist. As a speech-language pathologist, I don't have the training in chemistry or engineering that some people have, but I have taken master-level courses in health sciences, statistics, and child development. I've studied the harmful effects of toxins on different phases of prenatal development. A recent report documented that air pollutants, like ethylene oxide, cross the placenta, meaning that they can harm a developing child in the womb. We don't know what levels of
ethylene oxide are safe for children or for developing babies in the wombs of their mothers. In the case of alcohol and smoking, experts have said no amount is safe. Why would this be any different? In my training, I've also been educated on how to make decisions based on data and based on facts. We live in a time where there's increasing amounts of information and not a lot of real answers. Many times in my field, research can be slim. I am forced to make decisions with the information that is available. And sometimes we are simply forced to do the best we can with what we have because waiting is harmful. At the last meeting, I assumed that the toxic impact of this chemical and track record were understood, but I think that they need restated. Documented side effects of chronic low-level exposure of ethylene oxide include breast cancer, leukemia, lymphoma, stomach cancer, reproductive difficulty, and miscarriage. Acute exposure can result in neurological disorders, bronchitis, and pulmonary edema. The half-life of the ethylene oxide in the atmosphere has been reported in certain circumstances to be 211 days. Rain does not remove this toxin from the atmosphere, and it is heavier than air. But, as we've also learned, it does not get absorbed by the soil. According to the EPA, the upper limit of acceptable cancer risk for airborne toxins, such as ethylene oxide, is 1 in 10,000. In May 2018, air samples were taken and analyzed from the area surrounding Sterigenics, and these samples revealed the current cancer risk of 64 in 10,000, which is 64 times the acceptable limit. I'd like to add that according to the EPA, there is a 10-fold adjustment for children under 2 exposed to carcinogens. The area surrounding Sterigenics has the largest cancer risk in the state of Illinois and the 19th highest in the country. This company has been responsible for self-reporting their emissions. Prior to this summer, they were letting this gas flow freely out of their facility through an uncontrolled vent. This is more than a political issue. This is a health issue. We know too little about the harm that has already been done and about what amount of exposure can be considered safe. We know too much about the toxic impact not to take action. If one child gets cancer or has biological changes because of this company, this business, that's too many. I understand it takes time to get reliable data, but this is not a scientific study that I have agreed for my children to be part of. I encourage those of you who are on the fence or hesitating to take a more proactive stance. We need courageous leaders to stand up and do everything in their power to protect the health of our children.
Kathleen?
Hi, I'm do I use one of these or do I need one?
Just talk, it'll hear you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen O'Hara. I was here 2 weeks ago. I was disappointed that the mayor's absent tonight, but perhaps that's rather symbolic. I canceled my work to be here. The ladies that spoke before me have other things to do tonight. We didn't elect ourselves into this, but yet we're part of a group of how many thousand now? 5,200 people that have come together that really want an action plan, and that was what I had hoped for last time I talked to you, an actionable, aggressive plan at a minimum to do some testing at Harvester Park. I understand there's testing going on, but it can't happen fast enough, and the lackluster response of Burr Ridge is hallmark and embarrassing to be a resident of this community. When I have my youngest child ask me if the mayor can be impeached, why he doesn't do more to protect the people, I resort to things like, as a clinical psychologist, my thinking that I don't believe people are all good or all bad. But I do believe that people may be misunderstood, and usually that comes from a lack of information. Faulty information or poor quality education could hinder the progress on what I see as actionable items. The things that I've heard come from Burr Ridge are basically just reiterating what other communities have done or what other entities are doing. Relaying what Willowbrook is doing is not why we came here tonight. It's not why we came here 2 weeks ago. Relaying what ongoing health studies are being done, we can all access that information. That's not what we expect Burr Ridge to do as a board. So I'll offer myself as your humble servant. This is volume 1. I have no background in science. These are the articles that I've highlighted and culled and taken notes on and disseminated among our group of 5,000 people on Facebook. Numerous violations, failures, things that have come out. I don't even know if the mayor reads the paper, but I wanted to make sure that at least everybody saw, oh, good, okay, so everyone does hopefully read, front page news, because that would be maybe a kind of a primer of where to start. I'm frustrated. I'm a newly educated student of ethylene oxide. I don't have any more time for this than anyone else in the room. I would have hoped that in 2 weeks' time there would be at least a document that said you're fully on board. I'm offering the information that I've gathered with incredibly hardworking people behind the scenes. Some are scientists, medical doctors, we have physicists, we have basically a treasure trove of citizens that want to do more than what we perceive this board as having done. I guess what I'm saying is what's holding back this board from either taking a strong stance or, as my young daughter would say, basically usurping your absentee leader and silencing his Friday follies. I'm embarrassed to be up under the auspice of Mayor Mickey Stroud. There's only really the corrupt tie-in of Rauner and our leader here who hasn't done anything. And I don't play into conspiracy theories. I have no idea why he's not here tonight or why he's not going on record as being disturbed, disgusted, disgruntled, and taking a passionate stance. We don't expect him to be educated on ethylene oxide. I wasn't, but for some reason we can't seem to sleep at night, and he has another plan tonight. We all wish that we did. I hope when we meet again, there's an aggressive action plan that comes from Burr Ridge and not the relaying of information about what other area boards are doing. I'm truly glad to offer information. I know we have a lot of people that are ready and willing. We need leadership, we need direction. We don't just want to be a Facebook page sharing information that we know maybe eventually gets to a good writer from the Tribune. I expect more locally. Thank you.
Anyone else? Before we go any further, I just want to make a comment. I appreciate and understand what you people have talked about. The one thing that you also have to remember, as I stated when I started this, is as you look along the board, we realize there's a problem. It's a very personal problem on families, but you also have to realize that you've got well over 30 years a person on the board, and our families have grown up with that. I've had 5 children in over 30 some years, so we don't take it lightly, believe me. We do not take it lightly, and we're doing everything possible that we can. Our village administrator is on top of it, and unfortunately, as last week we had our attorney here. Now if it was in our village, we could take care of it a lot easier than being in another village. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay. Now we'll go into our consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. 5 minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of September 10, 2018. Approval of Plan Commission meeting of September 17, 2018. 6, ordinances. B, approval of an ordinance granting sign variation and conditions sign approvals as per Village of Burr Ridge sign ordinance for approval of 3 wall signs and a ground sign in a manufacturing district and for signs with more than 3 colors. S06 2018 7600 Grand Street, Pro Lodges.
No, I never.
C, approval of ordinance granting a variation as per the Village of Burr Ridge sign ordinance for approval of a ground sign in a manufacturing district, S07 2018 6860 North Frontage Road, Nino Will. D, approval of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance pursuant to section 4J to clarify the language regarding fences less than 50% open and to prohibit spike top fences in the village. An amendment to section 8B and 8C to add gun sales and gun clubs as a special use in business district. An amendment to section 4H9A to clarify the calculation of rear yard impervious surface coverage, Z22 2018 annual zoning review. 7 resolutions, we don't have any this time. 8, considerations. C, approval of mayor's request for reimbursement for attendance at the Illinois Municipal League Conference. D, approval of employment training agreement for Patrol Officer Jamie Lynn Crow. E, approval of employment training agreement for Patrol Officer Margaret Rose Scheidel. F, approval of recommendation to authorize Public Work Director to fill vacancy of part-time general utility worker 1 position. G, approval of vendor list in the amount of $633,825.86 for all funds, plus $187,369.22 for payroll, for a grand total of $821,195.08, which includes no special expenditures. So at this time, I'd like a motion to approve 5AB, 6B, C, D, 8, C, D, E, and F, G.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Martell?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passed. Go down to 6 under ordinances. Consideration of ordinance granting a variation from section 11C13 of the Village Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit the expansion of a restaurant without the required number of parking spaces, Z19 2018 324 Burr Ridge Parkway, Grasso.
Thank you, Trustee Pavesa. As you stated, this is 6A on your agenda. This is one effect is an ordinance to grant a parking variation to Capri Restaurant at 324 Burr Ridge Parkway. On September 10th, the board approved an amended special use for Capri, which permitted the expansion of the restaurant's outdoor sidewalk seating area by 280 square feet, thus necessitating either a parking variation to not have the 3 spaces built that were required or to have the 3 spaces built. Petitioner had passed on the latter option, so they decided to pursue the parking variation for this particular expansion. There were some discussions regarding possible solutions for granting a parking variation, and the village and the petitioner agreed on several conditions that would be included as part of an approved parking variation, the purpose of which were to relieve parking at and around the subject property for the benefit of the petitioner as well as neighboring properties and businesses. The conditions agreed upon were as follows. At least 2 valet attendants shall be provided between 5:30 and 8:30 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. All valet customers shall be parked in the pay slot during such time. All vehicles of Capri employees shall be parked in the pay slot during such time. And at the first violation of the parking variation, the matter shall be referred to the Board of Trustees at the next available meeting for consideration. So at that time, on September 10th, staff was directed to prepare said ordinance for parking variation with those conditions attached. We had conducted further research with the help of the petitioner, and we had found out that Capri does not have access to the lot on Pace between 5:30 and 6 p.m. So again, the ordinance was directed for staff to prepare between 5:30 and 8:30, but Capri, with their agreement with Pace, was only able to get access to the lot from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So in effect, Capri does not have access to the property to park valet cars or employee cars between 5:30 and 6 p.m. So what staff did, staff went ahead and simply moved that time up. It felt like the spirit of the board was to establish a time period between the dinner rush and the cocktail hour on Thursday through Saturday. And so we established the ordinance with the condition of 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Again, that was to align with the spirit of the board's direction, and we've included all the other considerations within the ordinance at this time. I would like to bring up an email that I had with some of the trustees before the meeting, just to clarify a few things. These have to do with the Capri employees parking in the pay slot. Again, between 5:30 and 6, they're not allowed to have access, but it sounds like there was some misclarification about what the employees were actually required to do based on the recommendations for the board. So I'm reaching that back out to the board to determine what the will of the board is regarding that particular condition. It was staff's interpretation they would be required to be parked in the pay slot only Thursday through Saturday, but in a dialoguing with some of the trustees, it sounds like that may have not been the case, and we wanted to at least bring that up for clarification before it was ratified and final. So with that, that's our staff summary, and I open it back up to the board with any questions you may have.
Yes, our discussion up here was that the employees, in a previous resolution or something in the past,
2015 special use permit.
special use permit,
For variation.
the employees were required to park in the pay slot. So now they haven't been using it, so now they come back around and we're willing to do this. It's not a recommendation for the weekend. It's a recommendation from 6 p.m. on, from 6 o'clock at night till on, the employees park in the pay slot.
So 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.
6 to 11.
Okay, understood.
All 7 days a week, 300 plus days a year.
Understood.
And with regards to changing the time, as we found out, because we discussed on the phone today, is if we're going to take away a half an hour, why don't we just back it up a half an hour? And I'll bring that up as a suggestion or a motion to the board. We're going 5:30 to 8:30 for the 3-hour rush. Now we're backing it up to push the employees from 6 to 8:30. Let's go 6 to 9 and give everyone adequate time. It'll alleviate that parking issue at least a little bit for the rest of the restaurants in the situation, especially going into the winter.
Understood. Thank you.
Oh, and lastly, we had agreed that with regards to the valet was going to park all of the cars there between the time of 6 and whatever. They weren't just going to go and start bringing back and forth. How many how many stations or parking slots was the valet allowed to station or hold on to while they stage to take them out?
4.
4. With two employees, I thought we had discussed we weren't going to allow more than, I can't remember what we discussed, but you need staging of 4 vehicles, 4 spots for having 2 employees?
I don't know, I'm not a valet expert, but I would suggest we just leave it that way and see how it works out.
Okay, it's a good point.
And if they're vacant most of the time, then maybe we could reduce that at a later date, but I think we should preserve it the way it is. This is my opinion, though.
Well, it appears they were doing it yesterday because when I drove back by about 6 o'clock, there was parking in the main area and the lot was pretty full in the back.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I concur with Trustee Snyder on this. It was always the intent, my intent, and the intent from the 2015 special use that all employees are to park in the pay slot from 6 p.m. on. And if you read the PACE agreement, it's 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So how we got at 5:30, I don't know, but we're fixing it now to 6 p.m. because that's when Capri has negotiated the agreement with PACE, starting at 6 p.m. So we need to be consistent with that. But all employees parked in the pay slot on all days that Capri is open.
I thought that was agreed to.
I'm just reiterating what Trustee Snyder is saying, which was different what staff is proposing.
It wasn't our proposal, just our misreading of the motion.
Not a problem.
Okay,
It's a clarification.
Clarification, thank you.
And the direction was.
Are we okay?
Clear.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the ordinance then? Yes.
I would make the motion to approve the ordinance with the changes as Trustee Snyder suggested, the changes being to 6 o'clock instead of 5:30, and the changes being the employees parked there 7 days of a week, starting at 6 o'clock. Did I capture those?
What about till 9 o'clock instead of 8:30? Your 3-hour window.
Right.
Yes,
the-
6 to 9.
6 to 9
Thank you.
for the valet
Correct.
Window.
window. We're backing up to half
Is there
an
a
hour.
second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passed. What we got here? Under consideration, presentation of our physical 2017-2018 audit. Mr. Sapp.
Good evening. I want to introduce Scott Tremaine. He's a partner with the village's audit firm, BKD. We had wrapped up our audit for the fiscal year of 17-18 over the summer, and he's here to give you an update on the process and how everything went. Thanks, Chair. Thanks to the board also for engaging us again to conduct the audit this year. Special thanks, of course, to Jerry and Lynette and all of the finance staff for all the preparation that went into the audit. It went very smoothly for us. We were here in July doing our field work, and everything was in very good order for us, so appreciate all of the assistance in that process. As in the past, we provide 2 main deliverables as part of our audit. First is the audited financial statements themselves, and then is a required communication to you as the board, just summarizing the results of the audit. I'll just point out first and touch on the financial statements quickly. If you've not already done so, I'd certainly encourage you to take a look at the management's discussion and analysis that is in the document. It provides a very nice narrative overview of the financial statements that's a lot easier probably to digest and understand than some of the schedules that are in that report, so would certainly call that to your attention. The audit opinion for this year is what we refer to as an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which is exactly what you want under the circumstances. It's the best form of opinion that you can get. So everything was properly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As with last year's discussion, I just point out again that the village's largest liabilities continue to be with regards to the 2 pension plans for IMRF and the police pension. And I point this out because similar to the change that you saw in fiscal year 2016, the village is going to be required to adopt a new accounting standard regarding other post-employment benefits, specifically some of the retiree health care benefits that are provided. That's going to change the reporting of those liabilities, similar to what you saw with the pension liabilities. So for next year, there will be new liabilities that will hit the financial statements related to those benefits. So just making you aware that that change is to come. We've talked about it for the past couple audits that one was in the works, so just wanted to remind you that that will be coming next year. And then I mentioned the second document. In addition to the financial statements, we provide you with that required communication. This points out to you that in conducting our audit, we didn't identify any significant disagreements or difficulties conducting our audit. We did not have significant journal entries, or perhaps as importantly, we did not identify any significant deficiencies in the internal controls for the villages. So the rest of the letter, as you flip through that, really just provides you with some additional guidance on some new auditing standards, or accounting standards, I should say, not auditing, but changes that are to come, and I've pointed out the most immediately critical one being the other post-employment benefit reporting changes. So I'll pause there and just open it up to any questions that you might have on those results.
Any questions? Yes.
Just a comment. How on earth am I supposed to review an 85-page document, a 6-page memo, and another 6-page memo in 5 minutes before the meeting? I would ask that this be transmitted to the board and the trustees at least 1 week in advance, preferably at the minimum a Friday in advance, so that we can have the chance to review this and ask intelligent questions.
Understood.
I can't ask any questions now because I haven't even read this thing yet. 85 pages long.
Yeah, I would defer to staff on the distribution there.
I suggest we table this discussion. We've all had a chance to review this, and then we come back and ask questions.
Yeah, we had posted that on SharePoint on Friday for review for the trustees, so.
This is the hard copy I received. And I've always asked for hard copies of large documents in lieu of SharePoint, in lieu of the village website. This is not on the village website, it's only on SharePoint.
It was on SharePoint, yeah.
If I may, it was posted with your regular agenda packet, as we do with all documents on the agenda the Friday before the board meeting. Certainly, if a trustee wants more time, we more than happy to table this for 2 weeks.
I'd agree with trustee Francine. I'd rather read it myself off of a hard copy and make notes.
I've asked for hard copies of large documents.
I was not aware of that.
Since we went to the computer system, the Microsoft Surface tablets in 2013.
Well, what I would say is we've all got similar comments. Bring them. You've got 2 weeks till our next meeting. If you feel there are enough questions, contact the village administrator, and then we can have you come back next meeting to answer those questions. I think that's only fair.
Need a motion to table this? Do you need a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to table until the next meeting.
The table. There's a second. Roll call.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion made to table the audit to next meeting.
Thank you.
B, consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to deny an amendment to Section 4J of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit chain link fences as a special use in a non-residential district and to deny a special use as per the amended Section 4J to permit a chain link fence on the subject property Z20 2018 16W 020 79th Street, Doveskill. Yes.
Thank you, trustee. As you stated, this is a recommendation from the Plan Commission to deny a request for a text amendment to permit chain link fence as a special use in non-residential districts in the village, as well as a concurring request for a special use for said chain link fence at the subject property. This was considered last Monday by the Plan Commission. The petition was made in response to a code violation found on the property, which is the presence of a non-conforming chain link fence surrounding the entire property. This is Lyons Truck Sales at 16 West 02079 at the corner of 79th and Madison, right near 55. They actually abut 55. The business has permission to erect a 4-foot wooden fence as part of their special use, but not the 8-foot chain link fence topped with barbed wire in back of the fence. So there was basically there is a wooden fence which acts as a screen in lieu of landscaping on the front side of the property. If you go to the property and you look up at it, you'll see a short wooden fence that is act as kind of a visual buffer between them and the street. Behind it is a safety fence, as they have termed it, a chain link fence topped with barbed wire, which protects against robberies, crime, things of this nature. And so ultimately the request, the property was reviewed for a special use in 2015. However, staff had no documentation that the chain link fence was or ever had been permitted by the village upon the review this year. This came up when they had previously requested an electric fence be a special use earlier this year, but that petition was withdrawn before it ever was considered by the Board of Trustees. Ultimately, the Plan Commission concluded that they did not want to recommend the addition of chain link fence as a permitted special use in the zoning ordinance. Now, separately, they made a recommendation that was the chain link fence be allowed to remain for a maximum of 10 years or until the property is significantly redeveloped. The Plan Commission and the board have the power under the zoning ordinance to declare an illegal, non-conforming use as a special use, either on a temporary or a permanent basis, as its own recommendation. Now, that cannot be made here tonight. The original recommendation and the only recommendation made by the Plan Commission is to not allow it, is to deny a text amendment and to deny a permanent special use for said chain link. And what's currently being before you tonight is to A, deny the ordinance or have staff prepare an ordinance denying the amendment for a text amendment, as well as a special use, along with direction to go ahead and proceed with a legal notice to have the Plan Commission consider their recommendation on a non-conforming basis for a special use. So there's two recommendations for you tonight. Very rarely does the illegal non-conforming special use come up in zoning. So this is quite rare. We don't have many examples of this in the village, but this is a power delegated to the village as part of its zoning ordinance, and so that's part of the recommendation that the Plan Commission unofficially made as part of their previous consideration. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to fill you in on this particular consideration.
Any questions?
No, that's clear.
I'd like a motion then to consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to deny the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any comment? A roll call?
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passed. Under considerations, other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion only. No official action will be taken. Again,
Al?
after the, yes,
I wanted to respond to the residents.
pardon?
I wanted to respond to the residents regarding
Fine.
Sterigenics. So I've been appointed as the liaison for the Village of Burridge for any communications between me and, well, the village and the residents regarding updates on the Sterigenics issue. I do have a website or a Facebook page where I'm posting information about the Sterigenics issue. I believe this is not a political issue. I believe it's a human issue that needs to be addressed. And one of the things that I did post on the Facebook webpage is the DuPage County, Gary Grasso, who was a DuPage County board member, was at our meeting the last meeting 2 weeks ago. And the next day, the board did vote unilaterally to revoke the license for Sterigenics. So the next step is to call Lisa Madigan. Her number is 312-814-3816, so that she can move forward with dissolving their operating permit. So again, you call the state's attorney, and her number is 312-814-3816. Okay, you can call every day. My wife calls, I call, and those are some of the actions. And then following Doug's comments, we are participating in an ambient air test. This is a test that's being done for the air after they've installed the buffers, the scrubbers, I'm sorry, to see what the air quality is now. And the Village of Burridge is participating in that test as well.
We don't have word on when they're going to do that testing yet.
It's a concerted effort between Willowbrook, Burridge, I don't know if Darien's involved in it as well, and we're all putting money into paying for this ambient air test.
We have not committed any money to that. That's the government, the
EPA does that.
Illinois EPA is doing, we've contributed through our tax dollars,
Okay.
but, yeah,
My understanding, there's a consultant that we've hired.
yes.
Okay.
Now, if you want, we're opening up to residents' comments again, if you want to make any comments. Please come up.
This is all great with the.
Your name and your, at least the town you live in? Thank you.
I feel like some of this gets lost in who's doing what, when, where, and so that's concerning. And I don't know why they installed this purpose in July, I believe, and now we're approaching October. I don't know why it still hasn't been done. Or it's not even scheduled, or there's some question as to who's doing it.
Tony?
These are the types of issues that I think are very concerning for us. Turn the podium microphone on. Who's taking care of it? Thank you. That's my only comment, is that this is like one tiny example of how no one seems to be working together. Everyone thinks someone else might be taking care of it, but we're all waiting to know that our air is safe.
Yvonne Mayer again. I wanted to show you this picture that's posted. I guess it's paid for with our tax dollars. This sign that's posted in one of the Burridge parks about breathe easy in our healthy hotspot. You guys have, tax dollars probably paid for that in our local parks. None of us are breathing easy. It's an embarrassment that you guys spend money on signs like this, representing that we're all breathing easy in happy, healthy hotspots, and yet you're unwilling to put pen to paper and have every single one of you, including Mayor Mickey, sign a letter and send it to Sterigenics asking them to cease operations until they can prove they're not killing our children. Why won't you do that? What are you all afraid of? It's a basic question. You had a lot of community members stand up here last week. There were a lot of community members who came out to Oak Brook and participated in a very large demonstration against Sterigenics, who were interviewed on television and talked about their stories of people they know and relatives they have who've had cancer. You have very prominent citizens in Burridge, the Tomey family, whose wife has published a very heart-wrenching blog, one that actually matters, that Mayor Mickey would probably call hysterical, exaggerated, over the top, unnecessary, histrionics, in which she describes all the horrible health impacts her family has had since they moved to Burridge in the last 2 decades. And yet you all sit here silently. It wasn't even on the agenda, a discussion about this. Thank you, trustee, for adding it basically to the agenda, because it wasn't on the agenda. So are you surprised that we sit here and scoff and wonder how seriously you actually are taking this? Not you or you or you, the three who actually came out and asked for a letter and said that the operations should cease immediately at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. But the rest of you, how can you sleep at night?
John Bittner, 2 Hidden Lake Drive, Burridge. My offices were next door to that for 16 years. Our offices were right next door. One of our girls died of breast cancer. My accountant died of leukemia. We didn't know why, but it happened. You can't blame these people. They didn't know what was going on. I was next door. I didn't know what was going on. I did not know. We're glad we moved.
We're not here anymore, but that's one of, I owned a lot of companies. This one was right next door. My daughter, write this number down, 630-887-0800. Talk to my daughter, Janelle Kittredge, that's her married name. They have a lawyer that they're talking to, giving all the information to. So people who have had a problem can get involved with this law firm that's addressing this situation with the state of Illinois. Because my 2 ex-employees who have passed away are dealing with this way. They didn't know what was going on. Nobody would. You don't blame these people at this board. There's times to blame them, this is not the time. They didn't know. They know now, but wait a minute. But you can't solve the problem. There are people that move into houses and you can't evict them for 2 years and you own the building. This is the legal process and the system that you have to deal with because we created this monster. We did. As people, we voted these people in. These laws occurred. Do not blame these people for this one. It's a situation that's out of control and it's very bad. 630-887-0800. Call Janelle Kittredge, and she'll give you the attorney because she's given this to both of our ex-employees because they want them to file lawsuits and hopefully they'll get money because they were damaged. We were next door, not a mile away, not a block away, the building next door. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I guess just to follow up, this isn't about blame of 30.
One more time, your name and your town, please, for the
Kathleen
record.
O'Hare from Burbridge. This isn't about blame of 34 years of us not knowing. It's about the contemporary issue right now that if we didn't have the DuPage County boards stepping up and unanimously voting and pushing Lisa Madigan, there wouldn't even be a basis for the public information for things like lawsuits or civic actions. Or the community at large is not saying, where were you for 34 years? They're saying, now that we know, each day that goes by adds cumulatively to 34 years. So my question for the liaison is, your recommendations as liaison right now are to call Lisa Madigan. Can you just back up for a minute? You referred to the unanimous board vote. Are you talking about the DuPage County vote? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's old news. I mean, most people have known about that for a while. When you referred to the hired consultant, is that Kevin Aikman who came 2 weeks ago? Is that the consultant you're referring to, the specialist?
Yes.
Okay, that's really old news now. I mean, even before he was here, he spoke 2 other times at District 86. And did he speak? So yes, he's definitely an asset because very few people really know the state of the art of interpreting ethylene oxide. So old news is the DuPage County, we know about that, we're thankful. Dr. Aiken, we knew about that, we're thankful. We know to call Lisa Madigan, we've been on that since before 2 weeks ago. So I guess is the new news I missed, website and Facebook page, what was that reference? Because I didn't get a website or a Facebook page.
It's my political page, Tony Schiappa,
Okay.
Burbridge trustee.
Okay, and what do we find there?
I'll be putting updates on there on information I find about what's going on with Sterigenics.
Okay, so is it a website or a Facebook page?
Facebook page.
Okay. So do we expect that will have different information than the town of Burr Ridge updates? Is it?
Well, I'm probably getting my information from Burbridge and Willowbrook and DuPage County.
Okay, so you're kind of collating several sources then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
There's state senators involved too, John Curran.
Yeah, we know about
And I'm in
that.
communication with him as well.
I would hope so. Thank you.
Anyone else? Reports and communication from village officials? Anyone? The one comment,
I did want to mention one thing, that the village's annual fall brush pickup is October 29th of this year. Begins the week of October 29th. Dave, you want to just quickly go through the parameters?
Yeah, sure. Our website has the details again for the same brush pickup program, but at the request of the village board, when we rebudgeted for one annual pickup per year, it would be once in the fall. And the direction was to go as late as possible. We were in consultation with our contractor. We pushed it back 3 weeks into the end of October. That week this year is going to cross across Halloween, but the stipulations are that the branches be on the parkways and perpendicular to the street. They're grabbed by the claw pickup method, and the bundles are such. The same program rules apply. But again, we've moved it back as late as possible. So we will not have a spring 2019 pickup. It'll always be in the fall. It's going to be as late as possible, and this year it's the end of October.
And again, your weekly scavenger service also provides lawn waste pickup, either in a can or in bundles not to exceed 4 feet long.
As I stated at the beginning of the meeting, we on the board take this very seriously and are very attuned to what's going on. It is something that affects all of us, like I said, not only on the board. And I've looked into it personally myself, and the thing that I look at is that I read, in the last year or two, that they've improved their scrubbing of emissions by over 90%. Well, if they improve their scrubbing of emissions by over 90%, what was it like in the previous 10, 15 years? And I think that's the thing people have to start really looking at it, is now I think they knew they had a problem and they're doing everything they can to fix it. But what was it like 5 to 15 years ago? I think that's the thing that people are going to have to look at. Any other comments? Non-resident comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Amato?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Cabeza?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
6-0.